Hello and welcome back to the Old Emo Dave channel. No Dave today, just me I'm afraid. My name is Scott, otherwise known as Elevensies, and I thought I could record a league for Dave because I've been cooking something up with some Edge of Eternities cards. We're focusing on weapons manufacturing, which is a new card from Edge of Eternities where we're going to make a lot of munitions very quickly with the stack, and Pinnacle Emissary, which does similar things. It's not quite the same, but it makes 1/1 drones, so they can attack. The munitions obviously can't, but with the munitions we have things like Rottenmouth Viper to sacrifice them away, and some Arcbound Ravagers which we can use to put the counters on the drones if we want to. That can make those attackers a bit better, and just sacrifice them and use them as removal as well. They leave a lot of artifacts laying around for things like Imskir. Refurbished Familiar is going to cost 1 mana pretty much all the time. 2 Corey Steel Cutters. I was testing it with 4. I found that when I drew more than 1, I didn't really like it, and it's just sort of a nice backup plan to have in the deck. I know a lot of times with Corey Steel Cutter it's the main thing to be doing in the deck, but in this it is more of a backup plan. We have a whole bunch of zeros that go well with Corey Steel Cutter, but once we've played a weapons manufacturing or a Pinnacle Emissary, we can really start to go off. So the 0 creatures work really well with the Springleaf Drums. That can increase our artifact count while also generating us the mana that we need. Cranial Plating's in there as a bit of a finisher. If we end up with a random flyer laying around, we can make it into a real threat with munitions laying around or some Mishra's Baubles, that sort of thing. The concern with this deck is only 15 lands, and the mana requirements can get a little heavy sometimes, especially with Imskir. So 7 colourless lands, but we do have 2 chromatic stars in there to go with it. You can use them to draw a card with Arcbound Ravager. You can just cycle them for a mana. Rottenmouth Viper works really nicely with them as well because you draw a card. And we've got Lava Spur Boots that we can find off of Urza's Saga as well. That goes quite nicely with constructs, and Lava Spur Bootsing a Rottenmouth Viper is a hell of a drug. The sideboard mostly thrown together with decks that I'm scared about in mind. Amulet Titan, Boros Energy, Blink, that sort of thing. All the things that we're going to be seeing quite a lot of in Modern traditionally, but also with Quantum Riddler. We might be seeing a little bit more Blink. We'll wait and see. Round 1, we are on the draw. So let's see what sort of hand we get dealt. So this deck does have to mulligan sometimes, especially with only 15 lands. So this one we have turn 2 Refurbished Familiar. It's not the most explosive hand in the world, but it is keepable, and you kind of need a critical mass of cards with this deck. It doesn't mulligan the greatest, so we'll keep it, and hopefully our opponent's on a bit of a slower deck. So Watery Grave, no play. That could mean Fatal Push, that could mean Spell Snare, Consider, that sort of thing. I would assume our opponent's on some sort of frog deck. So we did actually draw weapons manufacturing as well, which we might be playing that on turn 2. It can help power out this Imskir quite quickly, or we might be looking to be playing more of a Refurbished Familiar game here. So we'll go just a land and go. Wait and see what our opponent does. So I would assume, yeah, Thought Scour, okay. With a Hallowed Fountain, so could be Frog Splashing White, could be Gorios, that sort of thing. So no play on turn 2 either. That's making me slightly more worried about Spell Snare. Springleaf Drum's not a bad draw. So we can drum, Memnite Bauble, and then double Refurbished Familiar. So that seems like an okay place to be, to me. So we can Mishra's Bauble next. I want to make sure that we're not getting blown out by Fatal Push on this Memnite, for example, which would make the Refurbished Familiar cost too much mana for us to play both of them. So we'll play the Memnite, tap this for a black, and play a Refurbished Familiar. Obviously, if our opponent is on Gorios, making them discard cards could work out poorly for us. So they are fetching. Marshflats doesn't really tell us very much. Second Watery Grave does tell us a fair whack. I would assume this is a counterspell then. Okay, counterspell purely to take the artifact away from us. The second Refurbished Familiar. So we are at least going to get an extra card out of them, and that's a Thoughtseize, okay. So we hope here that the Imskir doesn't end up getting Thoughtseized. If it does, then it does. Our opponent's lost 2 more life. We can attack them for 3. Hopefully we draw something live. Meticulous Archive not off a fetch. Generally, you don't want to be drawing your surveil lands, and they surveil another land in. So let's see, Cranial Plating. I would assume they have another counter spell up. That's what I would assume. So I want to get the counter spell out of their hands. It could be an Orcish Bowmasters, which wouldn't be the greatest for us if we attacked in. So I think I really want to start trying to power up the Simskir and get it underneath the counterspell. There's only so many counterspells they can play, so I think I'm gonna play a weapons manufacturing and we'll see if this resolves. If they let it resolve and they just sit on the counter, that's fine. I'm okay with that. They're gonna just end up sitting there for a little while unless they have counterspell and Bowmasters, which would be a little bit of a beating, but wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. They are going to counterspell this. New card, they're scared of it. They don't want to see what we can do with it. So I think now that they have tapped out, I'm going to attack with the Memnite as well. Just get the extra point in. And we'll see what our opponent can do. Given they are splashing white, I am a little scared of pest control out of the sideboard. But the nice thing about weapons manufacturing is the munitions tokens that it makes. If you get Meltbound, Wrath of the Skies, Pest Control, that sort of thing, if they're destroying 4 or 5 munitions, then you are wiping their board or nearly killing them a lot of the time. So this frog is a pretty annoying blocker for the Refurbished Familiar. Rotmouth Viper is certainly a draw, so we can generate 1 off the Memnite and then 2 more from our land, so we'd need to sacrifice 3 permanents. We could sacrifice Memnite, Springleaf Drum, Mishra's Bauble. They've left 1 mana up, so I am a little scared about Spell Snare specifically. So I think we have 4 artifacts, so Imskir costs 4. I think Cranial Plating, equip it to the Refurbished Familiar, and attack them would be an okay plan, or at the very least Cranial Plating gets the Spell Snare out of the way. They might end up hitting us with a frog and drawing a card, so it's okay. We need to work through the counterspells at some point. Cranial Plating resolves, okay. So if it is a Fatal Push, then they haven't activated Revolt, which is why they can't kill the Refurbished Familiar. So I feel okay about this. If they give the frog flying and trade with the Refurbished Familiar, then it is what it is. We're still in the same position with the amount of artifacts that we've got, and they're down a Psychic Frog. It's not a bad place to be. And they have chewed up some of their graveyard as well, so if they've drawn an Oculus, that sort of thing, it's going to be less good for them. I'm considering Baurbling them. It makes our Imskir cost more, but we get another card deeper. I'm not going to, I don't think. We'll wait and see what they do. I can always Bauble on their turn and draw an extra card on mine. So 1 black, unearth the Psychic Frog. That's okay. It wasn't a Thoughtseize. And they have got the fetch now as well, so 2 cards in hand. If we assume it is Fatal Push counterspells, probably the worst case for us. Mox Opal is a very nice draw though, so that would put us up to 5 artifacts. Imskir would cost 3. We could Imskir using the Mox Opal. We would draw 2 cards, or we slam a Rotmouth Viper. If we were to Rotmouth Viper, we could generate 4 mana, and then we'd have to sacrifice 2 permanents, so we could probably sacrifice Memnite, Mishra's Bauble, and then the Imskir is way worse the turn after, so we'll cast a Mox Opal. If they counterspell this, pretty wild decision, when I already have 3 mana available, and I'm obviously some sort of affinity deck, but we'll wait and see. I've seen weirder things happen, so we'll cast Imskir, and I hope this resolves. If it does, it would be nice. Having a 5/5 that draws us 2 cards, good place to be, and 8's a little out of the range of being Fatal Pushed. They could have Bitter Triumph potentially, but then with the Unearth, I'd be surprised if their play wasn't to just Bitter Triumph the Memnite and then Unearth an Oculus or something, but if they don't have the Oculus, I suppose. Okay, Sink into Stupor's not the worst, because we still have the Imskir for next turn, and all it's done really is bought them a turn. I think I'm going to drum my Memnite just to put the Cranial Plating on it. There is every chance that they attack us with a frog because they need to draw the card, and then we end up getting them very low with a Cranial Plating or potentially even killing them. Okay, so they are drawing the card with frog. They're not scared of our souped up little Memnite, which also probably does indicate to me that they have got Fatal Push. Cycling another Unearth and just passing. Okay, so they've got 3 cards in hand. If they are just resting on a counterspell, then Urza Saga's a pretty fantastic draw. Let's go for the Urza Saga. Imskir is still going to be drawing us 2 cards. Unfortunately, it's rounded down. I wish it was rounded up, but you live and learn, I suppose. Rounded up might be a little bit problematic. 6 artifacts is casting it for 2 mana, drawing 3 cards. If you have 1 more laying around, drawing 4 cards that's quite a bit. So I think I'm still going to use the Mox Opal because I'd rather not pay life if I can avoid it. And we'll see if the Imskir resolves this time. It does, so we're getting 2 cards out of this. Pinnacle Emissary, Arcbound, Ravager. So I can try and attack with the Memnite. Could get Bowmastered, could get Fatal Pushed. So I'm going to do that because I'd rather drag the removal off of the Arcbound Ravager that I want to play out, just to be a bit more mana efficient. They just take 6. That's interesting. So I can tap the Imskir and 1, and we'll play out the Arcbound Ravager. And obviously, if this does get Fatal Pushed, then sure, the Spell Snare. We did finally get rid of the Spell Snare. Okay, still 3 cards in hand. They could draw another card with Frog. It would be quite brave, considering I've got 2 lethal attackers on the board. But their out here might just be drawing exactly Fatal Push, Sink into Stupor, that sort of thing. Could be an Oculus. I feel like they're casting an Oculus. Yeah, okay. And a land. So they've got 2 cards in hand. They're going to make another 2/2. They are compelled to trade off the Oculus as well. So all this has really done is answered our Imskir. We draw Chromatic Star, and Urza Saga can start spitting out constructs. So we can construct, and then we have Drum and Bauble. So we have 2 mana available, which we could Pinnacle Emissary, Chromatic Star. Could be worth it. Follow up with a Rotmouth Viper. I think this Cranial Plating is going to be a bit of an issue for them pretty consistently. So I am going to attack with both, I think. And if they didn't draw removal, they are compelled to trade this off, so that's okay. Imskir's already done his work. He's already drawn us some cards. So we can warp Pinnacle Emissary. I've never seen that warp effect on Modo yet. Very nice. I'm glad that they've given some form of visual distinction to it, because casting the card and warping it is quite different. If this gets countered, then that's fine. I don't play out the Chromatic Star. I can still make a construct with Urza Saga with Mox Opal and the Sulphurous Springs. There is every chance they're reading the card. I think Edge only came out on Modo yesterday, so I'm recording this on a Wednesday. Don't know when it will be going live, but I suppose that depends on how much editing Dave needs to do over my dulcet tones and my terrible play. Okay, Pinnacle Emissary resolved, so I feel pretty safe in just casting this Chromatic Star. And I'm gonna make the construct now, just because I can use the Pinnacle Emissary with the Springleaf Drum to generate the mana. And then I have the Drome left up, which can block the Frog, so they want to jump the Frog so it doesn't get eaten by the construct token. But then I can block it with the Drome token and stop them drawing the card. And then we have Rotmouth Viper as a follow-up, which is going to be pretty hard for them to deal with, to be honest. I suppose if they do attack and jump it, there's a consideration towards just not even blocking with a Drome token. My life total is still quite high, and the Cranial Plating is going to be quite a problem. Okay, they are jumping the Frog. Okay, just because I have an Urza Saga popping, I can go get Lava Spur Boots and haste this Rotmouth Viper. So I am going to block purely just to deprive them of the card. Another Oculus? Okay. Well, they drew the Unearths and then the Oculus, so obviously did it in the right order. Okay, so we don't need to do anything here. We just untap, let them manifest Dread. And this is, they sack a non-land permanent or discard a card. Another Mox Opal isn't the worst thing in the world. So I can make another construct. As a Saga pops, we go and get the Lava Spur Boots. Play the other Mox Opal out. Obviously, Legend, roll them away, keep this one, and then black. So, what do we want to sacrifice here? We definitely want to sacrifice the Chromatic Star. We can sacrifice the Mox Opal. I think we're past Cranial Plating mattering. Mishra's Bauble can go. We've been sitting on that the whole game, and I think Springleaf Drum is absolutely fine to all go as well. So we're casting this for a black, draw the card off the Chromatic Star, and if our opponent has a 1-mana counter spell for the Rotmouth Viper, then fair enough. Even if they do, we can Lava Spur Boots up a construct token, and we still have a card to draw off the Chromatic Star. And that's game 1 for us. Not bad. That was a bit of a grindy one. So we could bring in Grafdigger's Cage, which can stop the Unearths. We can bring in Fatal Pushes, because they deal with Frog and Oculus, and if they Bowmasters us, anything like that. I'm not sure I want our Spellbomb or Tormod's Crypt that much. Volume in their graveyard's not really the most important thing. It's specifically the Oculi. Shadow Spear, we're not really the ones under pressure. I could bring in Brayer's Apprentice just for a little bit more grind. So if we were to bring these 5 in, what could we be cutting? So I think we can probably trim at least 1 weapons manufacturing because they are a spell snare deck. We could... Memnite doesn't seem great. I assume they're going to have Bowmasters, and I think trimming 1 is okay. Refurbished Familiar's not the best. If we just cut the Refurbished Familiars, how does that look? We're slower, we're more interactive, and the Fatal Pushes can really stunt them. They're going to try and sit behind just an Oculus or a Frog and ride that to victory. So, right, into game 2. Let's have a look where we land. Okay, so our only mana source is a Mox Opal, and we have no others, so we'll send that back. Here we have Quarry Steelcutter and Weapons Manufacturing with an Imskir, a couple of zeros, and enough mana to cast them. So if we were to keep the Imskir, we'd need to draw another coloured mana source. I think I'm going to bottom the Imskir. We have got 3 of them in the deck. Let's have a look. Cranial Plating. Nothing just yet, so we'll lead on the Blackleaf Cliffs. I assume they're just going to be getting Spell Land here. In their last game, they led on a Watery Grave and had to pay 2 life for it to come in untapped, so they didn't have the option because they didn't play a fetch land. Obviously here, if they had the Thought Scour, they could go get it. Consigned to Memory going to the bin kind of tells me they've already got at least 1, and they are shocking that in, so safe to assume there's a counterspell. Urza Saga's pretty nice to get if they're playing their counterspell game. So if we play the Urza Saga, because we want it to tick up to 2 next turn, and I reckon we'll play out this Weapons Manufacturing. They're still going to be scared of it. Game 1 they countered it. We'll see if they counter it this game as well. Thought Scour, Milling, Spell Snare, and Consigned to Memory. They've just loaded up on counter magic apparently. So Weapons Manufacturing did resolve. So I'm going to hold the zeros. I want them to go with Quarry Steelcutter. If we can get that one to resolve as well, that would be quite nice. Could we see another one? Another Thought Scour. Fine. They did put a Psychic Frog in the graveyard, so they can unearth that at some point. Or they could just be hard casting an Oculus now, just off the fabric of their draw. Yeah, I feel like this is an Oculus. Okay, we're going to have quite a lot to work through, but this Cranial Plating is going to go pretty insane with the Weapons Manufacturing. Okay, they Manifest Dread. We draw an Ornithopter. So, the cool thing about Weapons Manufacturing is whenever a non-token artifact you control enters, so Darksteel set it up, making munitions. And we need to make a decision here. Do we want to get the Cranial Plating down now, or do we want to get the Quarry Steelcutter down? I think with them playing Oculus, we might be a little far past the Quarry Steelcutter, but it does give us a steady supply of creatures to put the Cranial Plating on. So I'm considering just making a Construct as well. They have no mana up. I'm just going to play the Quarry Steelcutter. We can start getting some artifacts down, make another munitions, and then we'll play an Ornithopter as opposed to a Memnite. If we need it as a flying blocker, it can act as that. Make a monk, make another munitions, and then I think we can pass the turn. So obviously they are going to untap with an Oculus. That's not a great place to be in. They had it on turn 3, just kind of is what it is. Thoughtseize is going to take this Cranial Plating away from us, I would assume, but that's not the worst thing in the world. It's 2 less damage that we need to deal to them, I suppose. The plating's obviously nice with the trample on the Quarry Steelcutter, and they're attacking with both. That's interesting. So I would assume this Manifest token is a second Oculus. I'm not going to block. If we end up taking 10, that's fine. We didn't. Okay, fine. So they Manifest again, and we draw another Weapons Manufacturing. Really the place we want to be with this currently? What could we get off the Urza Saga? We could get... Grafdigger's Cage seems a bit nebulous, I suppose, at this point. They've already got a pretty substantial board. We could get a Mox Opal that could prepare us for more gas in the future. I think either way we want to make a Construct here. So we'll make a Construct, because with the Weapons Manufacturing sitting around, that's just going to be huge. Same as the Cranial Platings, really. So we get the Construct. It could just be Fatal Pushed, but if it gets Fatal Pushed, it gets Fatal Pushed. We'll get a Mox Opal. Triggers that once more, and then we can attack with a Quarry token. If they block with a Manifest, they block with a Manifest. That's fine. That's less of a threat that we're under. We can always put the Quarry on the Construct token. That will end up giving it trample. So their plan, I suppose, of walling us with the Oculus isn't going to work out super easily. And they are going to fetch. I assume this is just going to be another surveil land. Okay, basic. We could be getting Harbinger of the Seized, which makes me very glad I got this Mox Opal. Sink into Stupor the Construct. Okay, that seems like a reasonable play. Let's see what they do here. So 4 mana available. They could Harbinger us. It would leave them with blue mana and only a black mana. My only hope is they're looking at 2 pest controls in their hand and thinking, wow, this really isn't very good because of these munitions tokens. I suppose our best draw would just be a Rotmouth Viper. We could use the munitions to kill the Oculus. I suppose if it was a Rotmouth Viper, we could, if they don't Harbinger of the Seized, we could play out the other weapons manufacturing, play our zeros, sacrifice 5 munitions. The really good thing about these is it's any target. If it was each opponent, this deck is still, I think, quite good, because you're just getting so much damage out of them whenever you sacrifice any of them. But the fact that it's any target, and if you're in dire straits, you can just use it as removal. That's just a really nice mode to have. Like if we were to draw an Arcbound Ravager, you can sacrifice all the munitions, kill these 2 things. If you wanted to, you could then sacrifice the Ravager to itself, put all the counters on the Ornithopter, start attacking. So another Surveil land out of hand, Thought Scourer into the bin, and they're leaving all the mana up, so we have to assume counter spells, sink into Stupor, that sort of thing. Fatal Push. Can't really trigger Revolt, which is a bit unfortunate, but we can play out this weapons manufacturing. Play another Ornithopter. This is going to trigger the Quarry for us. Would like to attach. Make some more munitions. And I'm going to attack with the Quarry token. If they flip a second Oculus and kill us or whatever, then fine. It is what it is. But I can chump block and Fatal Push the Oculus. That makes my heart happy. That makes me feel good. They actually did have 2. Okay. Nice. Okay. Very happy with that. Okay. Thoughtseize. That's gonna take away our Fatal Push. So I might just pick the one that they didn't block with, I suppose. That's most likely to be a Frog or something like that. It was a Murktide Regent. Don't really want to pay the mana to flip that one up, but Thoughtseize takes away the Memnite. I'm okay with that. They're attacking with both, so I don't think there's anything they can flip up to make that Manifest token lethal. Okay, just 2 damage. They still have 3 cards in hand. Another Ornithopter's not going to do it for us, so we'll move into game 3. I think I'm still going to keep my plan. There's a potential I'm not meant to have these Fatal Pushes in. I think on the play, you could argue that I want to be more assertive, playing more Refurbished Familiars, that sort of thing. So we'll do that. We'll go for the more assertive mode. Boy, am I glad I put them back in. So this is going to be Citadel, Star, Mox Opal, Refurbished Familiar, and then see where we go from there. We could always play the Ravager to get underneath Spell Snare, and because we're playing out the Memnite, it's actually not the worst if they do end up Fatal Pushing it. So we can do it this way, I think, and play out the Ravager. I don't really want to play the second Mox Opal just to play out this Familiar or the Chromatic Star. I'd rather hold it, wait and see if we draw weapons manufacturing, Imskir, that sort of thing. Okay, it's an old school affinity turn 1. We'll see if it's good enough in 2025. Okay, Springleaf Drum. It's not the worst. So we can play the drum. We can tap our Memnite for a black and play a Refurbished Familiar. And again, this is another really good carrier of these Arcbound Ravager tokens, counters as well. So again, bit of a worry that they're just going to discard an Oculus here and then untap and unearth it, but we live on the wild side. They drew the Meticulous Archive again, so we'll attack with the Ravager. And if they don't do anything, they're just taking 1, okay? And we can play out the Chromatic Star. Pest Control is okay against this. They're going to clear off Memnite, Mox Opal, Springleaf Drum, but we end up with 4 counters on our Arcbound Ravager, and we do draw a card off the Chromatic Star, so it could be worse. I assume they're going to just be getting a Surveil land with this one. Yeah, okay. So they're going to have 2 mana available. Okay, we'll untap. We drew a Brayer's Apprentice, okay. We could play that out. I suppose we can attack first with these. See if they do anything. If they don't, I will just sacrifice the Chromatic Star to put a counter on the Ravager. We get to draw a card. Speeds up our clock pretty nicely. Pinnacle Emissary, not a bad play. It is a 3/3, it's going to start spitting out some stuff. They didn't do anything again, so I would assume they've got some form of counter magic in hand. Consigned to memory, spell snare, that sort of thing. If it is consigned to memory, then our hand makes a mockery of that. I think I want to lead with the Pinnacle Emissary first, because then we can just start generating passive value out of everything else we play. And we'll see if this works. They could Fetch Shock, counterspell it, fine. If that happens, then fine. They are getting white mana, so we could see a pest control here. Yeah, okay. That's okay. We've still got a reasonable amount of pressure on the board. We're not very soft to pest control. Toxic Deluge, I suppose they have to pay 6 life as well if they were to play that. So Soporific Springs coming in tapped, and we drew a Quarry. We can just play out the Brayer's Apprentice, kind of do a similar thing with the Pinnacle Emissary, or we can chain Quarry with the Mox Opal, but that leaves us with 2 mana. I'm not so sure I'm stoked about that plan, so we'll do the same thing, put them in the same position. Back with these guys. Okay, and they're taking 4 again, so if they have another counter spell, then they have another counter spell. It is what it is, but we'll play this out. Like, they are under serious threat from the board state as is. If all they're doing is countering everything else we play, then I'm okay with that. Black. Fatal Push the Arcbound Ravager. So what am I supposed to do here? I suppose I could stack some tokens up on the Refurbished Familiar. I think I'm gonna go... I'll sacrifice the Mox Opal, because we have another one anyway. I think I'll sacrifice the Memnite, because we're going to end up with the Thopter anyway. And then sacrifice the Ravager to itself. Yes. Modular, the counters onto the Refurbished Familiar. And then we get a Brayer's Apprentice, so we're not in a bad spot. I am going to hold the Mox Opal. Even though they play Thoughtseize. If they Thoughtseize us, they're going to take the Quarry Steel Cutter anyway. And then they're really in trouble. Psychic Frog. That can block the Refurbished Familiar, but it cannot block this Brayer's Apprentice. So, weapons manufacturing with Brayer's Apprentice is going to be pretty nice. So, that would be 5 damage with the Thopter token, so we could Mox Opal, but with the weapons manufacturing. They have to discard a lot of cards to kill this, I suppose. So, let's go to combat, and I'm just going to attack with the Refurbished Familiar, because I want to use the Thopter token with the Springleaf Drum, and I want to use the Brayer's Apprentice ability. And if their players give the Frog Flying and Chump Block, then that's fine. That seems to be their plan. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with this. Ooh, they don't know what to do. So this isn't a lethal attack, obviously. It's only 6 damage, and they're at 7. But there is every chance I kill them. In fact, I would with the weapons manufacturing. They're going to discard some cards. Can discard a lot of cards, in fact. That's their whole hand, so they had a bunch of pest controls again. Okay, so they trade off. They have 0 cards in hand. We've got a Brayer's Apprentice. I'm pretty content with that, not gonna lie. So I think we'll play out this weapons manufacturing, just getting the munitions available. And this is until the end of your next turn, so I can Mox Opal, make munitions, and then we'll just say go. We'll just be ready. We'll wait. If their draw is a Psychic Frog, we can use the munitions to kill it. I'm pretty content with where we are. And that's match 1. We are here for game 2. We have weapons manufacturing. We have the means to cast it with no follow-up. And we have a whole lot of mana. Into an unknown opponent, I think I'd have a more balanced hand. This isn't balanced, but it's got a lot of Urza Sagas in it. Urza Saga is pretty potent in this deck. It is one of the better cards we can play. Flooded Strand being cracked right away. Is this Boros? It is. Okay, so an Ocelot Pride is their opener. So we can play out the Love Spur Boots. Gives us an artifact on board. It's going to make our Refurbished Familiar cost 1 less. And we'll pass the turn. Voice of Victory is a follow-up. That's not too bad for us. We don't really play instants, obviously. The combo. Okay, Imskir. Not really when we want to be drawing it. I think I'm probably going to Mishra's Bauble and then play out the Refurbished Familiar. I don't really want to play out the Arcbound Ravager when it's our only creature. It makes Galvanic Discharge on it just so punishing, and then we get attacked for roughly 1 billion. They had another Ocelot Pride. That's quite scary. Unfortunately, Refurbished Familiar doesn't block either of their creatures, so they're going to attack with both of these. They'll go up to 5 permanents. Here, 7, 8. They'll play a land. Move to end step, they make 1 with Ocelot Pride if they cast nothing. So unfortunately we can't block. We can't afford to lose the artifact. And they may have just had too fast a start for us here, which is fine. That happens. There's a reason why Boros is one of the best decks in the format, right? Ajani is the follow-up, so they're going to make a billion things. They do know to stack their tokens correctly. We draw the weapons manufacturing, but I think just a little too slow, and I'd rather not reveal any more of what we've got going on. So these whip flares, they're definitely coming in, and I think I want at least one fatal push. Here, for sure, the refurbished familiars can go. They're not blocking anything, and they just feel a bit anemic against a deck where they're 2 for 1ing you repeatedly. Them discarding a card is just not really the line you want to be going down, so Boros is going to be playing Wrath of the Skies against us. We could Grafdigger's Cage, actually. Maybe a Chromatic Star. There we are. We'll get that little last bit in. Grafdigger's Cage just being able to stop a Flage is pretty reasonable. Yeah, we'd like a slightly more explosive draw here. Whip Flare, obviously very, very good in our deck. The only thing it really kills of our own is our Monk tokens. If we could have just a turn 1 weapons manufacturing, or turn 2, make a bunch of munitions, and then sack them all to Rottenmouth Viper and wipe their board while playing a Rottenmouth Viper, that would be quite nice. Okay, so, I mean, we can make a billion drones on turn 1, and then we have Whip Flare to stop what they're doing. Okay, let's warp in the Pinnacle Emissary. We'll cast the Mishra's Bauble, make a drone, and then I'm going to bauble them. I'm going to see what they've got going on. Well, we know they've got a Wrath of the Skies. What does that make me want to do then? I think that makes me want to hard commit to this Pinnacle Emissary slightly less, because they could just Wrath for X is 0. I'll play out the Larvaspur Boots as well, and then we'll let this go off on its merry adventure to Warpland, and then I don't really want to play the Urza Saga out if they've got a Wrath of the Skies coming. That's just not the world I want to live in. And they're playing out a Guide of Souls. I think I don't need to Whip Flare, so I can equip the Larvaspur Boots, hit them for 4, let them Wrath, play the Urza Saga, play the Quarry, trigger it with Memnite, or Whip Flare. That seems like it's going to be our best option, to be honest. Just being able to play through this Wrath of the Skies is going to be quite important, I think. And if they try and delay a turn, play some creatures out with this Guide of Souls, gain some life, we get to Whip Flare them. They get another basic plane, so that's telling me they've got Blood Moon in hand. They are going to Wrath for 0. That's okay. And then they'll attack us for 1. Oops. Don't want to view dungeon information. Thanks for that mechanic. Okay, Darksteel Citadel. So we can go land, Quarry, Memnite, trigger the Quarry, and keep the pressure up on them. If they Blood Moon us, they Blood Moon us. Fable. Okay, that's probably better for us than Blood Moon. And they can't really afford to Blood Moon us next turn either, because we're going to have a Saga on 2. And I don't really care about the Goblin Shaman so much. We draw another Pinnacle Emissary. It's not the worst. It could be good later on. I think I'm going to attack with a Quarry, and then we're just going to be sitting here making some constructs, I think. And then we can use the Saga popping to go get a Mox Opal, which we can then use to cast the Pinnacle Emissary. So not the worst situation in the world. I value the construct this turn higher than Whip Flaring this board. It could come back to bite us if they end up jumping something with Guide of Souls, then it can get out of Whip Flare range, but we're at 16, they're at 9. They're going to gain some life off this Guide of Souls over the course of the game if we don't kill it, but I think I'm okay with that. And they do have a Flage in the graveyard now, so maybe this Urza Saga just goes and gets the Grafdigger's Cage instead of the Mox Opal. I think that's reasonable. I think with 2 constructs and a Quarry, we're going to be in at least an okay position. Obviously, if they fetch Flage now, then yeah, okay. So they are going to be gaining quite a lot of life with this Ocelot Pride. And the Sacred Foundry is being shocked in, so Ajani maybe? Okay, so they're getting the Ocelot Pride double, and they've left red up. So I could see them being able to Galvanic Discharge one of their own cats and flip their Ajani to protect it. And they're choosing to jump the Goblin Shaman. That's fine, that's reasonable. Okay, so we're going to go down to 12, and they're going to move to their end step. I'm going to make the construct now, just because otherwise I'll misclick, and it lets them auto-pass. And they're going to Thraben Charm or Urza Saga. Not great, they've got a Flage coming for us. So Springleaf Drum we can get out onto the board. They can Flage the Monk token. So we're going to Springleaf Drum, trigger this, Flare, make this a 3/3, deal 2 damage to it. Oh, that's actually not great for us. So I can Springleaf Drum and then Whip Flare, but I'm going to not attach the Quarry to the new Monk because it's just going to die to the Whip Flare anyway. But that's okay. Better than dealing with this. not gonna lie. Okay, we'll Whip Flare, no. Deal 2 to each creature. And we're not dead to this Flage unless they peel an Arena of Glory. But if they peel an Arena of Glory, we're pretty dead anyway. So I am just going to attack with both, just put them under pressure. They've got 5 mana available. The Reflection can't do anything. They've got 2 cards in hand. Their best option's almost definitely going to just be to escape the Flage. One of them was a land. So we don't need to worry about Arena of Glory. How are we dealing with this Flage? They Flage, kill our Monk token, attack us for 4 with the Goblin Shaman. We attack them with the Construct. They have to block with Flage. They're going to only have 3 extra cards, 4 extra cards with the Marsh Flats. But then they could Surveil an additional card. So they could Flage us again the turn after. Yeah, this isn't looking too great for our hero. Where's the Flage going? It is going at the Monk. Darksteel Citadel's not going to be good enough, I don't think. We can Lava Spur Boots and Corey Steelcutter the Construct, but that's not good enough. Well, there's a reason Boros is the best deck in the format, as I said. And I don't know, our draw in that second game was okay. It was just, that's the Corey Steelcutter draw, as opposed to the more explosive weapons manufacturing, Pinnacle Emissary, Rotmouth Viper sort of draws. We've got Spike in the league, so I imagine he's going to be quite surprised to see something similar to what he has been working on. So we have a hand that can not really do anything. If this had 1 mana source in it, it would be absolutely sick. We are on the draw. How brave are we feeling? Spike leads with an Urza Saga, so I think if we Mishra's Bauble ourselves, we have an Ornithopter on top. So we can Mishra's Bauble again, Mishra's Bauble. Then they've got another Urza Saga. Okay, I'm just going to pass. Without playing a land, I might add. We draw Ornithopter Weapons Manufacturing. Goblin Engineer, so I feel like we might be seeing a portal to Phyrexia or something like that being placed in the graveyard. It's the battleship thing. Another Weapons Manufacturing isn't really what we needed, but I can go Ornithopter, Moxopol. Play this Refurbish Familiar. He can discard another thing. Nugan's Labyrinth, okay. Destroy target non-creature permanent, then deals 4 to each creature. So I feel like we're probably just going to die here, because it's destroy the Mox Opal, wipe the board. Yeah, we didn't draw the land. So okay, that was a stupid keep, if I had to guess. So this only stops creatures entering, so it isn't really what we want. I think I could bring in this Gnarl Spellbomb though. Pithing Needle can name, Goblin Engineer it can name, Underworld Cookbook, that sort of thing. Ravager might be what we want. Corey might not be what we want here. It's going to be a bit more of a glass cannon-y sort of matchup. Fatal Push can stop the Goblin Engineer stuff. Should we have a look at... We'll have a look at his deck list, shall we? Doesn't play Asthma. Pithing Needle would stop Goblin Engineer. That's pretty much it. So I don't think we want that. So I'll just bring in the Tormod Script as well. It's another 0. It can only go so badly. Okay, how's this hand? It's very, very close again, but I think I'm going to mulligan that, knowing what I'm up against. I'm a lot happier having an Spellbomb, and I'm going to keep the coloured lands, I think, just because they're going to serve us in a bit better stead, I think. Right, we'll go land, Spellbomb, and then wait and see what Spike does. Starts with a cookbook. Okay, kinda is what it is. Okay, land, and then weapons manufacturing. So again, we've just set up here, basically. The Arcbound Ravager is going to start doing some work with the manufacturing. If they play a Goblin Engineer, I can kill it. Not upset. Okay, so we can Ravager. This makes munitions. Refurbish Familiar. Get a card out of the hand. Make another munitions as well. That's good. Sundering Titan's a little concerning, but we'll allow it. We'll use the munitions to kill the Goblin Engineer. And then we say go. And I hope... What'll be our best draw? Just, I think, a Mox Opal, Mishra's Bauble, that sort of thing. Something where we can make another munitions and get this Rotmouth Viper down would be quite nice. Trash for treasure. So we get to Gnarl Spellbomb. We will not pay. And we will exile your graveyard. So we've stopped the first wave. Obviously, if his hand is another thing to discard and another trash for treasure, then just sort of is what it is. Another weapons manufacturing. I think we play it. We have nothing better to do. We could Rotmouth Viper, sacrificing these 3 things, and that puts a lot of pressure on. But I think if we are going to see some form of Big Dumb Idiot coming down, we'll set up again, attack and I am going to sacrifice the munitions just for the extra 3 damage. So it's the counter plus the 2 damage. The only way we're casting this Rotmouth Viper is if we draw an artifact anyway. I think I'm okay with that. Faithless Looting's scary. The End Stone. So that's... yeah, we need to kill them in 1 turn. And whenever they play a land or cast a spell, draw a card. So quite a lot of text on that one. And they get to Goblin Engineer another thing in. Their last card's Trash for Treasure, then obviously kind of is what it is at that point. But if we could just draw a 0. Thank you very much. That is, as far as the zeros we could draw go, that is excelente. Yeah, fair enough. It's had enough. So do we know anything more? Not really. I don't want Shadow Spear. I don't want any of these things. Blood Moon, they're mono red. Bray's Apprentice, too slow, that sort of thing. I'd rather just have a similar draw to that, just enough disruption to make it a bit painful. So this hand we've got 5 artifacts. Imskir. If they do the thing really quickly, it's not a great hand. I suppose if I draw a 0, this can go quite well. Memnite or an Ornithopter would be quite nice. I suppose we're going to be doing that on turn 2. So I'll play out a Chromatic Star and say go. 3 mana, Monument. Okay. And then they can go get an Underworld Cookbook, start doing their stuff. However, I'm going to make a billion dudes. So I'll warp this Pinnacle Emissary. Play a Darksteel Citadel, play a Springleaf Drum, Burbush Familiar, they discard a card. Fair enough, they get to do the Monument to Endurance thing, but whatever. They were going to do it next turn anyway. And then I think Memnite and Mishra's Bauble, just full dump. I'm not going to crack the Mishra's Bauble. I want to make sure I'm getting the maximum amount of Imskir that I can. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this would... Imskir would be a draw 5. I have to assume this is just going to get a cookbook. Yeah, that's fine. So then they can discard with this draw card. I suppose if they discard a big thing, like a battleship, and have red land Trash for Treasure, that could work out poorly for us. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. They're discarding a Faithless Looting, so nothing big in hand. They're just going to keep grinding away with the Monument. In which case, I'm really happy that the last card in my hand is Imskir, because that's going to draw us 5 cards. Another Ugin's Lab. No pitch. Duretti with nothing to sacrifice. But I suppose it triggers when they attack as well, so... okay, well, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Imskir, draw 5. I've seen worse plays. Draw 5, lose 5. Can we kill them with Cranial Plating? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I suppose that is somewhere above average. That's a spicy meatball. So, did rescue the 3-2. Learnings, I think the Coreys just need to come out of the deck. It pains me. Anyone who knows me in person knows that I am a Corey Steelcutter Mox Opal enjoyer. Through and through and through and through and through. Rotmouth Viper with Pinnacle Emissary, weapons manufacturing is really nice. I really like the Ravagers. I think we could stand to put a few more in. There might be a world where you're meant to cut the Corey Steelcutters, play another Ravager and another Pinnacle Emissary, and just go a bit more combo-y. The mana base is obviously, it has its issues for sure. The Darksteel Citadels feel like a necessary evil. We had plenty of hands where they were really, really good. They triggered weapons manufacturing or they turned on Mox Opal. But I wish there was a way to make the mana a little bit nicer. There might be a world where Glimmer Void is okay here, but it feels like Sulphurous Springs but worse to me, where we are only 2 colours. Obviously Pinnacle Emissary requires blue, but we'd never really had that many issues casting it when we wanted to, or when it would have really mattered. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's something that I've been working on, cooking up. Told Dave I'd broken it. Turns out we haven't broken it. 3-2's not quite there, but 3-2 with something that was untested. This is the kind of place you want to be in testing, right? Is it gives you a spot, you can work from that, you can iterate on it, and maybe we'll see if we can come back for another league and see if we can get a 4-1 or even a 5-0. Cheers guys, see you soon, love you.